So I'm up here on the jetty, and you can kind of see the piss poor work, in my opinion, that was done. It's all jagged, not smooth at all. That you went to other areas, they probably had it smooth enough you could have put a damn table out here. They would have took their time with the work. But as I watched out my window last year, as it got closer, and I'm starting on the tip of the jetty. I just climbed over the railing. I'm gonna walk all the way out to the end. Now, the only reason I'm making this video is because I've noticed some big changes from when they finished this jetty last year. I believe they finished either in October or November, and we're in the beginning of November of 2020. They finished either in October or November, I believe it was, of 2019. To me, they rushed because the winter was about to be upon us. So I kind of noticed toward the end of their project, they were rushing. I don't think they took their time and did such a great job. I've noticed some very distinct telltale signs of this thing might not last. And they spent a lot of money on this project. A lot of money. Anyway, let me hurry up. I'm double time it out to the end. This thing's hurt my feet too. But what I've noticed from out of my window, I'm just gonna break it down to y'all. Last year, I could tell when it got down to the end, they were rushing, throwing them rocks in there, and hurrying. I guess it was a storm or something was coming, and it was about to be winter. I don't know if they had a deadline. They was trying to make the deadline or what, but they were working into the night, had the night lights going, where they weren't doing that before. So that was letting me know that, you know, they were trying to hurry and get this mess done, which they should have been working like that before. They would come and it'd be already daylight. They should be standing around drinking coffee and stuff when they should have been working already. Anyway, I'm noticing rocks and stuff look like they're separated. I've seen a lot of the stones. If you watched my first video I made, they had made a bed of stones they put down first. I was calling them like pebbles or whatever, but they were big rocks. Not as huge as these big old ones they put down toward the end, but as the base. And they, I guess that was the bed they were placing these ones on, the bigger ones. Those things were being washed out as every time high. Now, some point during the video, my finger hit the daggone pause button. So I stopped recording. But look how you're getting off to the side. They did this thing all the way to the end. And look how some of the rocks are dropping off on the side. They're dropping off into the ocean. It's like sliding. They did this thing all the way down to the end. And see how some of these rocks have dropped off into the water? Hey, look at the big yacht. Hey, y'all. They love come showing their pretty big yachts out here. Oh, I really don't care unless you're going to give it to me. You're going to give it to me. Anyway, yeah, it's sliding off into the water because they didn't do such a very good job. I don't know how these people be sitting off in here. I probably shouldn't even be standing here. But I remember the thing used to be on the edge and used to be placed in these stones. And then they came with the cement and was cementing this shit in, I guess, to try to hold it in place. But as these storms have come, these stones are starting to drop. Look at that big one. It dropped all the way over here into the water. Ain't no telling how many more of them have separated and just into the water, throwing them. The storms are throwing them into the water. They're not connected anymore. They're like sliding further and further out. Hey, little ducks. It's beautiful out today. I think it's gonna get up to 66 for November 4th. Not bad. In New Jersey. There goes the moon. Still out. Anyway, so that's this part. I wanted to show y'all how the rocks are sliding down on the end part. Mind you, they came all the way to the tip. So they started where I started walking, all the way from that end down there. They came all the way to the tip where I showed y'all. Just turned down there. And you see how them rocks is falling into the ocean. They're sliding away. All right, so I'm gonna walk all the way back. I'm gonna pause this and walk all the way to the back, and then I'm gonna show y'all, I don't know how much got recorded, how the bottom, to me, is separating. It's separating, and the stones that they had at the bottom, I don't know if it was like a rock bed or whatever. The stones are like, during storms or whatever, is being forced out onto the sand. When the water's like getting high or whatever, it's pushing them out from this side. The stones are coming out on that side to the sand that I know was at the base when I first started coming out here. When they first was doing the project, they were putting a whole bunch of stones. You remember, if you watch my beginning, my first video I did on this jetty, it had a whole bunch of these big, well, to me, they weren't big compared to these big giant joints, but they, you know, there was a whole bunch of rocks down at the bottom. Well, they're being forced out onto the sand anytime there's a decent sized storm or it's real high tide. And I keep asking myself, how are these stones coming out unless there's big gaps that's underneath? And there's, imagine if a big gigantic storm come, it could force that water just to rip this whole damn jetty apart, because it's not secure. There has to be a big enough gap that these big old rocks can come through. And I've noticed bigger stones are coming out. They're popping out and they're laying on the ground, which when I get to the other end, I'm gonna show it to y'all. All right, I'm gonna pause this till I get to the other side. All right, people, I've made it down. All right, so these are the rocks I'm talking about. They're not as big as you can tell from the other one, but they're fairly, you know, good size. They're not like lightweights. A sea glass? That's regular glass. Anyway, the water is pushing that through. Now look how these rocks are sliding down. They're actually coming away. Look, these rocks were connected at one point. This one has just completely tumbled on down. They're coming down. They're sliding down. They're cracking. These rocks are coming down with each storm. They're separating. They're becoming displaced. There's gaps. Look how that's like a big gap down at the bottom. These stones, these rocks are moving. Look how this big old rock has tumbled free. Gigantic. Imagine somebody's kid is over here playing. That cement that's over there holding this section right here. This big old rock. These section right here. These rocks are gonna tumble free. Look at these that's come free. Look at all these daggone little pebbly rocks that's come free, that's gotten washed up. Because when there's the high tide or a big storm that comes through, this whole section is filled up like a swimming pool with water. So look at all these rocks that have tumbled down and come free from this jetty underneath. So at one point, when it's high tide, when I say high tide, I'm talking about a storm, a big storm that's come through. All of this is underwater. So it's soaking that concrete or whatever mix they didn't put through. It's just like loosening. All this is sliding. That's all sliding. Look at these big old giant rocks. It's just sliding down. And I keep looking out my window. I'm like, this thing is gonna fail. And I don't hear nothing about no settling. These rocks, stones, whatever you want to call them, they're moving. They're moving. That's not no settling. That's displacement. That's displacement. They're moving. And think about how much of these stones that are covered up. They're covered up by the sand that's being pushed. It's like it's making a groove. It's unreal. Look at this. This is like a shelf. It's like making like these little caves where stones used to be. This whole thing could just come down. And it's gonna come down. It's gonna come down. It's moving. Stones were sitting here where this was at, where this empty caverns are. It was stones sitting there. It's sliding and it's moving. So when is the whole thing just gonna collapse? When a big storm comes through? Is that when it's just gonna collapse? And this jetty is just gonna wash away? And it's only been a year. What did they spend all that money for? For the shoddy ass work? There's no way within a year's time that this thing should have been shifting and all these rocks are being displaced. Look at that one. Look how, see how you still got some water in here. Look at all these rocks that have stones, whatever. I just want to call them rocks. But look at that big shelf. I assume that's where that rock was at. And you see how all the little rocks that were stones, whatever, were inside as the base. They're just coming out of there because water is pushing them out. And those were the ones that was the base that was underneath where I was just walking. So they're all getting pushed out on this side. See, this is where you gotta really think about it. They're getting pushed out, so there is no underlying foundation under that top part anymore. So if that's all getting pushed out and there's nothing holding them top rocks up underneath anymore, when is that whole thing just gonna collapse in? Look at all these daggone rocks. This was all the base for the top part of those rocks. So if all of these rocks are pushed out from the base, what is holding those other rocks into place? If all the base is gone, that means to me, sooner or later, when a good storm comes through, as they call it, the perfect storm, it's going to just tear that whole jetty apart. Look at this. See how that big old stone has slid down? See how that other yellowish stone is in the process of sliding? That darker stone is just barely enough holding it up, but it's sitting in water. I'm talking about this one right here. It's sitting in water. So sooner or later, that water is going to give and it's going to move. Then that big old lighter color stone is going to slide on down, bringing that whole slide with it. Then if you move over here, look how this is. Everything is just like a jagged jigsaw puzzle. Look at that. It's nothing sitting there holding that. It was at one point a whole bunch of rocks. It's just a shelf now. It's a shelf. Look at that. If you come over here, let me get, because the sun is kind of blocking it. If you look, that's just a shelf. It was all rocks sitting there. It's pretty much a shelf now. And what is that shelf holding? Rocks up, that's the side of the top. So if it's nothing at the bottom, guess what? Sooner or later, that top is going to give. And this goes down for a hot minute. I got to be careful when I'm walking because all these big jagged rocks is in the ground, halfway submerged. Look at that. Just a whole bunch of rocks, just exposed under a shelf. They're just being pushed out. Unreal. It's just unreal. And I just, every day I look out this window, every time it's a new storm, I just look and see, every time it's a good storm, they're in a new formation. I'll see new rocks that were not separated. They're away. And I'll be like, wow, there goes another one. There goes another one. Every time it's a good storm. I don't know what to say. All right, I'm not going to go all the way down because I think y'all get the gist. Look at that shelf. Look at that big old rock came from under there. I assume that rock came from under here. And look, once that little shelf gives, this big old gigantic rock is coming down. And then that's the end of that side. It's only been a year. Do they not have people that come and monitor this situation? You know, whoever started this project, I forgot. If you go back to my first video, I did pause and look at the sign. I think I even read the sign of the people that that started this project. Look how that's like a big dip. That's where all that water sits and just soaks and it's eroding away at the foundation of that jetty. Did they not know this was going to happen? Did they not care? The people that got their money, they went on about their life. This is unreal. Like I said, this thing is just going to push out. I'm thinking like a blowout. That whole side is just going to cave in and slide down. Or the top part is just going to cave in. Like I'm either seeing it's going to, the side is just going to give way and it's just going to slide down because you see everything is sliding now. Or the top part is going to cave in because everything that's sliding down on the side, there's not going to be anything just hold the top part up. And don't, please, Lord, don't let it be in the summer or spring when at times there's like so many people standing up on that thing and it just gives way. All right, this is Urban Sweetheart Teresa. Y'all be safe out here. Bye.